My beloved child, there is a reason one particular name has been returning to your thoughts when the room becomes quiet. You may have dismissed it as coincidence. You may have told yourself that your mind was simply wandering back to an unfinished memory. But tonight, something hidden is beginning to rise through the silence, and before this message reaches its end, you will understand why the letter M has been placed so close to your heart. Do not rush to decide who this person is. The first name that enters your mind may not be the person at the center of this story. The warning is not arriving to make you suspicious of everyone around you, nor is it meant to fill your heart with fear. It is coming because someone has noticed something you were too emotionally close to see. They have been trying to find the right moment to speak, but every time they came near the truth, something stopped them. Perhaps it was your loyalty. Perhaps it was the way your face softened whenever you spoke about this person. Or perhaps the one trying to warn you feared that you would protect the person whose name begins with M, before you even heard what needed to be said. Picture a dimly lit kitchen late in the evening. A cup of tea has gone cold on the counter. A phone rests face down beside it, silent but not forgotten. Someone sits alone at the table, replaying a conversation they witnessed days ago. They remember the tone of a voice. They remember a sentence that sounded harmless at first. Most of all, they remember the expression on the face of the person with the letter M in their name when they believed no one was watching. That expression changed everything. The one trying to reach you did not immediately understand what they had seen. They wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. They told themselves not to interfere in a situation that might not concern them. Yet the memory followed them into the next morning, then the next night, growing heavier each time they imagined you walking forward without knowing the full truth. Something about the situation did not feel cruel. It felt conflicted. And that is what makes this message more complicated than a simple warning. The person whose name begins with M may not be trying to hurt you. In fact, they may care about you far more deeply than they have ever admitted. But caring for someone does not always make a person honest. Sometimes affection creates courage. Other times, it creates fear so powerful that a person begins hiding the very truth that could set both hearts free. You have felt this hidden distance before. It appeared in moments that were easy to overlook, a message answered later than usual, a conversation suddenly redirected, a pause after you asked an innocent question. You may have noticed their eyes drifting away, as though they were listening to something inside themselves that they could not allow you to hear. You did not confront them because part of you believed patience would reveal everything naturally. Another part of you was afraid that asking the wrong question might change the relationship forever. But the silence has already been changing it. The person attempting to warn you knows this. They have watched you offer understanding without receiving clarity. They have seen you give the benefit of the doubt until doubt itself became exhausting. Yet they also know that your connection with M cannot be reduced to deception or disappointment. There is a history beneath it, perhaps even a bond that once felt strangely familiar from the beginning. That is why they have hesitated. They are not trying to tear anyone away from you. They are trying to prevent you from making a decision based on an incomplete story. Several nights ago, the person connected to the letter M stood near a window while rain traced silver lines across the glass. They were speaking to someone you may not know well. Their voice was quiet, almost breaking, and what they said revealed that the confident face they show the world is not the whole truth. "I don't know how to tell them," they whispered. The person beside them asked, "Are you afraid they'll leave?" There was a long silence. Then came the answer. "I'm afraid they'll stay for the wrong reason." Those words were overheard. And the person who heard them has been trying to understand what they mean ever since. Stay close to this story, because the warning may not be about escaping someone. It may be about seeing them clearly before you give them another piece of your future. For months, M has been carrying a decision they have not yet made. On one side is the life others expect them to choose. On the other is a truth connected to you, a truth that asks them to become more honest, more vulnerable, and more accountable than they have ever been. They have delayed because delay felt safer than choosing. But time has begun choosing for them. A door is slowly closing. An opportunity is approaching. A conversation that could have happened gently may now arrive with greater emotional force. The person trying to warn you senses that something is about to shift, and they do not want you to be caught inside that moment without knowing where you stand. You may be wondering why this warning has reached you now. It is because you have recently changed. Perhaps no one has said it aloud, but you are no longer willing to chase explanations from people who benefit from your confusion. You are beginning to recognize the difference between compassion and self-abandonment. Your heart is still tender, but it is no longer asleep. M has noticed this change. They see it in the way you no longer fill every silence. They feel it when you stop asking questions they should have answered without being pressed. Your quietness has unsettled them not because you are punishing them, but because they realize you may finally be preparing to walk forward without waiting. That realization has awakened something urgent inside them. Yet before they speak, someone else may speak first. The one trying to warn you has written and erased a message several times. The first version sounded too harsh. The second revealed too much. The third began with your name, followed by the words, "There is something you deserve to know." But they did not send it. Instead, they saved it and waited for a sign that you were ready. What they do not know is that you have already been receiving signs through your own awareness. Not supernatural proof, not a prediction carved into the future, but subtle emotional evidence, the way your body tenses around certain subjects, the way peace leaves when promises are made too quickly, the way your intuition becomes unusually quiet when someone is telling only part of the truth. Your deepest wisdom does not always shout. Sometimes it simply refuses to relax. Still, you must not turn this message into a reason to accuse someone without understanding. The warning asks for discernment, not suspicion. Listen carefully. Watch whether actions and words move together. Notice who offers truth without being cornered. Pay attention to who becomes defensive when you ask for clarity, and who becomes gentle because they understand why you need it. The person whose name begins with M is approaching a crossroads. They can continue protecting the version of themselves that keeps everyone comfortable, or they can tell you why they have been holding back. The choice belongs to them. But what you do with the truth will belong to you. And that is the part no one can decide on your behalf. The person trying to warn you has seen more than one private moment. They saw M open an old photograph and stare at it longer than expected. They heard a name mentioned your name and noticed the immediate change in their breathing. They watched as M began typing a message, then locked the phone without sending it. At first, these details seemed to prove that M missed you. But then something else happened. A second person entered the room. The energy shifted instantly. M hid the photograph, straightened their posture, and acted as though nothing had happened. The newcomer said something that made them visibly uncomfortable. "You still haven't told them, have you?" M did not answer. That unanswered question is the center of the warning. What have they not told you? It may be connected to a promise made before your bond deepened. It may involve a responsibility they fear you will misunderstand. It could be an emotional truth about their past that has shaped every hesitation you have witnessed. But one thing is becoming clear: whatever they are hiding is not small enough to remain hidden much longer. The person who overheard this exchange finally decided they could no longer stay silent. They reached for their phone again. This time, they did not erase the message. They wrote that M had been speaking about you. They wrote that the situation was more emotional than it appeared. They wrote that you should not make any sudden decisions until you heard everything. Then they added one final sentence. Please do not mistake their silence for a lack of love, but do not mistake love for complete honesty either. Their finger hovered above the send button. At that exact moment, another message appeared on their screen. It came from M. Only 4 words were written. Don't tell them yet. The person at the table froze. They had not told M what they knew. They had not mentioned the unsent warning. There was no obvious reason for M to believe they were about to contact you. Unless someone else had been watching. Or unless M had already decided that the truth was finally coming and knew exactly who might reveal it first. Now the person trying to warn you faces a choice. They can respect the request and remain silent, hoping M will find the courage to speak. Or they can send the message and risk setting events into motion before anyone is prepared. But something happened only moments later that made silence almost impossible. A new voice note arrived. It was not intended for you. It was not sent by M. It came from the second person who had entered that room, the one who asked whether you had been told. The recording was brief. There was breathing in the background, the sound of a door closing, and then a sentence spoken with unmistakable urgency. You need to warn them before tomorrow, because M is about to make a choice they cannot take back. And just before the recording ended, another name was whispered, a name connected to you in a way you never expected. My beloved child, the whisper of that final name did not arrive to frighten you. It arrived to awaken your understanding. The voice note ended, and the room fell silent. The person holding the phone closed their eyes, realizing they could no longer pretend that this was someone else's responsibility. They had reached the point where silence itself had become a choice. They knew that if they remained quiet, they might protect a secret, but they could also allow misunderstanding to grow deeper. So instead of acting in haste, they made one simple decision. They chose honesty. Not dramatic honesty. Not angry honesty. Gentle, compassionate honesty. They asked M to meet them before another day passed. When they finally sat together, neither of them spoke for several long moments. The air carried the weight of unfinished conversations. Outside, the evening breeze moved softly through the trees, while inside, two hearts wrestled with the same question: was the truth finally ready to be spoken? At last, M looked up. "I know why you asked me here," they said quietly. The other person nodded. "You've been carrying something too heavy for too long." Those words broke the silence that had surrounded them for months. M admitted they had been hiding something, not because they wished to deceive you, but because they feared losing the connection they treasured most. They believed that if you learned everything before they had found the right words, you would see only their mistakes and never the heart behind them. But secrets, even well-intended ones, slowly become walls. Every day they waited, the wall grew higher. Every day they postponed the conversation, your distance felt greater. The warning was never about discovering an enemy. It was about recognizing what silence can become when it is left untouched. M confessed that they had spent countless nights rereading old conversations with you. They remembered your kindness during difficult moments. They remembered the patience you had shown when others would have walked away. They realized they had been asking you to trust them without giving you all the reasons you deserved. That realization humbled them. It also changed them. Instead of asking others what they should do, they decided there was only one path left. They would tell you everything. Not to persuade you. Not to control your decision. But because genuine love can only grow where honesty is allowed to breathe. The person who had planned to warn you smiled gently. "You don't need me to protect them anymore," they said. They're finally ready to protect the truth. In that moment, something beautiful happened. No dramatic miracle filled the sky. No mysterious sign appeared. Instead, something far more meaningful unfolded. Fear gave way to courage. Pride gave way to humility. Silence gave way to conversation. And sometimes, my beloved child, those are the greatest miracles a heart will ever witness. As this story reaches its end, remember something important. The letter M was never meant to become a reason for suspicion. It was simply a symbol. A reminder that every relationship reaches moments when honesty becomes more important than comfort. Whether the person in your own life has a name beginning with that letter or not is not the true lesson. The true lesson is this. Never ignore the quiet voice inside you when it asks for clarity. Never confuse unanswered questions with lasting peace. And never be afraid to choose conversations that make truth possible. Because truth, spoken with kindness, does not destroy genuine love. It strengthens it. The future of every meaningful relationship depends less on perfect people and more on willing hearts. Hearts that are willing to admit mistakes. Hearts that are willing to forgive. Hearts that are willing to begin again with openness instead of fear. Perhaps someone in your own life is standing at that very crossroads today. Perhaps they are gathering the courage to tell you what they should have shared long ago. When that moment comes, listen with wisdom. Protect your peace. Honor your boundaries. But also leave room for sincere transformation, because people sometimes become their truest selves only after facing the consequences of hiding behind silence. As this fictional story comes to its close, may it leave you with hope rather than uncertainty. May you recognize relationships that are built on honesty. May you have the wisdom to ask the questions that matter. May you never settle for confusion when understanding is possible. And may your heart always be guided toward people whose actions match their words. May your days be filled with peace that cannot be shaken, courage that cannot be stolen, and love that grows stronger through truth instead of secrets. May light surround your path, calm fill your spirit, and hope remain with you wherever life leads next. Thank you for staying until the very end of this inspirational fictional journey. If this story touched your heart, encouraged you, or gave you something meaningful to reflect on, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need a message of hope today. Until we meet again, may peace, wisdom, and abundant blessings go with you always.